When you hear the word science, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it lab coats, crazy complex equations, or maybe just giant textbooks full of facts? Well, all that stuff, those are just the tools and the results. The real story, the actual heart of science, is something way more fundamental. It's not a thing you learn, it's a way you think. So let's just push all those stereotypes aside for a minute and ask the big question. What is science, really? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into in this explainer. Okay, let's dive right in. Here's the big shift in thinking I want you to make. What if science isn't just a subject you take in school, like biology or chemistry? What if it's actually a process, a really powerful method for questioning and understanding reality itself? It's basically humanity's best, most organized attempt to make sense of the entire universe around us. So if we're saying science is a method, well, what does that method actually look like? Are there rules? What's the core definition we're working with here? And boom, here it is. Science is a systematic and logical approach to figuring out how the natural world works. Now, the key words here are systematic and logical. This isn't just random guesswork. It's not just throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks. No, it's a structured process, and it's built on three main pillars: observation, experimentation, and reasoning. I love this slide because it basically tells a story. It all kicks off with observation. That's that aha moment when you notice something, a pattern in the world. Then comes experimentation. This is where you get to play detective, right? You test your ideas to figure out if it's just a coincidence or a real cause and effect thing. And finally, there's reasoning. This is where you put all the clues together and build a solid explanation based on the evidence you found. And this right here, this brings us to the philosophical heart of the whole thing. Science isn't about belief or faith or just taking someone's word for it. It's driven by something called methodological skepticism, which is really just a fancy way of saying that science starts by questioning everything, not by blindly accepting it. And these principles, these are what make that skepticism so incredibly powerful. It all starts with curiosity, that little voice in your head that just has to ask why. But a good question isn't enough. Any claim is worthless without measurable evidence. And that evidence has to be repeatable. If you and I can't get the same result twice, it's probably not real. A strong theory also has predictability. It should be able to tell us what's going to happen next. And maybe the most important of all is this last one: self-correction. Science isn't afraid to say, you know what, we were wrong. In fact, the whole system is designed to find its own mistakes and fix them. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so we have this powerful method. But how does that one method build out into this vast world of knowledge that we have today? How is it all organized? Well, we can kind of map this whole world into four big domains. You've got the natural sciences, which study the physical universe, physics, chemistry, biology. Then you have the formal sciences, like math and logic. Think of these as the essential toolkit, the language and the rules that all the other branches rely on. The social sciences turn that powerful lens on us, on people, to study human behavior. And finally, the applied sciences use all of this knowledge to solve real-world problems and build the world around us. But you've got to remember, this super organized system, it didn't just pop into existence overnight, not at all. It's more like a great river, one that's been carved out over thousands of years by the evolution of human thought. And this timeline just illustrates that journey perfectly. The ancient Greeks gave us that foundation of reason and observation. Then, scholars in the Islamic Golden Age really pioneered systematic experimentation. After that, the scientific revolution in Europe came along and formalized the method we still use today. And that brings us to the modern era, which is all about massive global collaboration, making the process more and more rigorous with every single step. So as science got more complicated and way more collaborative, it kind of outgrew the idea of the lone genius working in a lab, right? It needed a bigger support structure to keep things on track and to drive progress. And this need led directly to the rise of our modern scientific institutions: universities, government agencies, research labs, all of it. You can really think of these institutions as the guardians of the scientific process. They're the ones who manage peer review to make sure the work is solid. They enforce ethical rules to keep everyone honest. They standardize methods so we can all compare results apples to apples. And they make possible these huge global projects that are pushing the boundaries of what we know. Honestly, without them, progress would grind to a halt. All right, we've talked a lot about what science is. But for our last big point, let's flip that around. Let's talk about what science is not. Because understanding its limits is just as important as appreciating its power. Look, there is no denying it. Science is probably the most powerful tool for understanding objective reality that humanity has ever created. But, and this is a big but, it's just that, a tool. It's like a hammer. A hammer is great for building a house, but you wouldn't use it to paint a masterpiece. It has a specific job and it has boundaries. And this is absolutely crucial to get. Science cannot answer questions that lie outside the world of measurable evidence. It can't tell you what's morally right or wrong. It can't tell you the meaning of life or your purpose. And it's so important to remember this today when science is often asked to solve problems that are really about our values, not just about facts. Its domain is the observable, testable world, period. I think this quote just nails it perfectly. Science is the ultimate how machine. It can tell you how a star is born, how a cell divides, how a rainbow forms, but it can't tell you why there are stars, or cells, or rainbows in the first place. Understanding that distinction is the key. It stops science from becoming a belief system and keeps it in its proper role as our greatest method of discovery. And that leaves us with one last big thought. Science gives us incredible knowledge and the ability to do amazing things, but it doesn't tell us how we should use that knowledge. So how will you choose to wield this powerful tool? Will you use it to build a better, wiser world, or just to gain more power? That is a question science can't answer for us. That's one we all have to answer for ourselves.